Desmos is a game changer for the SAT, especially if you want to make above a 1450 and secure scholarships for college. Today, we're going to dive into solving some hard questions very easy, less than 10 seconds. So let's dive in. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at these questions. So here's a question that we have, right? And so we have if 2 to the power x plus 2 to the power x plus 2 is equal to 40, and we want to figure out what's the value of x. So I'm going to do the mathematics behind this, but then I'm going to show you a faster way to solve this. So in math, when you get a question like this, right, the first thing you want to look at, you look at both sides to see what can you simplify. So here we have 2 to the power x plus 2 to the power x plus 2. And we're saying that that is equal to 40. So my question here to myself is, well, which side can I simplify? Well, I can simplify the left side. And what I notice here, this side or these two terms, they both have 2 to the power x in common. So we're going to factor that out. And so in factoring 2 to the power x here, I always say when you're factoring, it's like dividing, right? And so if you divide 2 to the power x, and I can write it like so, if you're dividing that by itself, well, anything divided by itself is 1. And so for this one, if you pull 2 to the power x out, we're going to be left with just this part of it, right? 2 to the power 2. All right. And then we're saying that this is equal to 40. So we're not done. We need to find what x is. So 2 to some exponent x times 1, we know that 2 squared is 4, is equal to 40. Okay, we can simplify a little bit more. 2 to the power x times 5 is equal to 40. So at this point, we want to figure out what x is. And so your aim here is to isolate x, or at least try to. So I'm going to try to isolate the exponent that has x, right? And so that means since we're multiplying here, I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. And so 2 to the power x is equal to 8. Now, if you are familiar with this, you would know that this answer would be x equals 3. And if you don't, then you can just multiply out 2. So you like 2 times 2. Well, we know that's 4. And then you do another one times 2. Well, 4 times 2. And then that's how you know that it's 2 multiplied 3 times, or 2 to the cubed power is equal to 8. So my answer is C. All right. Now, let's say you want to do this quick, right? This was really cute. This took me about a minute and a half. And, it was really 2 minutes, but because I was explaining maybe a minute and a half, maybe a minute, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to share my screen, and I love to talk about using Desmos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, right? And I'm going to show us how we can do it using Desmos. Okay. All right. So when we go to Desmos, I also want to note here, when you're using Desmos, you want to make sure that you are going to www.com Desmos /practice, because if you're not doing that, you might not be using the correct Desmos version that you will see on the actual exam. So make sure you're going to www.desmos.com /practice. And I walk you through that step in one of my previous videos. So we're looking at, so we had 2 to the power x, right? And so let's put that in there, 2 to the power x. And let's see, let me see if I can pull it up here. 2 to the power x, okay, plus 2 to the power x plus 2, and that's in the exponent, x plus 2. Oh, so we have to put this in parentheses and then jump down. And we're told that this is equal to 40. Now, you might be wondering, how can I figure out what the answer is, right? What you can do here, the answer choices, and it's no longer on the screen, and I don't want to go through the whole mess of trying to reshare my screen, right? And so the answer choices are A1, B2, 3, or C3, D4, and E5. And so let's say you're in the process of trying to figure out what solution is correct. Well, with this, what we're going to do is utilize our answer choices to help us come up with a solution. And so for us who may not be able to do all the math in, you can simply do this with this type of question. So they're asking us to find X and they're giving us the solution choices. Let's use them. We always suggest that you start with C, right? Because if you start with C and you get an answer, so whatever we plug in, if we plug in X equals 1 and our solution is too small, then we know we have to go up higher. But let's say C is 3, right? So let me plug that in here. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to use this one. So I'm going to remove my answer. The answer should be 40. Okay. So let me plug in. So C is 3. So I'm going to plug in 3 for X, and C, does that give me 40? Well, what do you know? It does. And so if you use this method, you're already done, right? But let's say, so that means my answer is C. You check C and you move on, right? And that was a little bit under 5 seconds, right? But if it's not C, and let's say you started with B, and you put 2 instead. Okay, see here. So you put 2 and you see that your answer is 20, but we're looking for a solution of 40. So we definitely could not use 1 because 1 would be too small, right? So we would go up, right? And so also with this method, if let's say for some reason you chose C and it was too big, then you would go smaller. So automatically you would eliminate some of the answer choices. And that's one of the strategies that we also teach. You want to work with that process of elimination so that you're not guessing, especially if you're crunched for time and you're going back through and you're having to guess. It's better to like eliminate some of the answer choices so that you have a better probability of getting the questions correct. But yes, so definitely I am a big on using Desmos. You have it, use it. And so this is one way that you can solve this problem. So let's do another one very similar. So let's do another one. And so I'm going to reshare my screen here because I already have it loaded anyways. And so just want us to get familiar with it, right? So let's say, and I'll let you try it yourself. You can if you would like to. But instead of doing, well, I could do the math in part first and, we can see how it works out. So here, you actually can simplify. So we have here if n, or 3 times n minus 3 plus 3 squared is equal to 18. What is the value of n? So here we can actually first simplify, right? So we could, well, it's simply, yeah, you can simplify. And remember, check the side that you can simplify. Plus 3 squared equals 18. Well, we know what 3 squared is. That's 9. So we really have 3 times n minus 3 plus 9 is equal to 18. So what we can do here is, again, remember, I always say you want to get that variable by itself. So we're going to get rid of this 9 here by subtracting. So we have 3 to the n minus 3 is equal to 9. Now, with a question like this, you want to have what we call the same base, because the base on the left-hand side here is 3. And you want to be able to write 9 the same way. And well, they kind of gave it to us in the question. So we know that 3 times n, or 3 raised to the n minus 3 power, is equal to 3 squared. Now, if you have the same base, what that means then is that the exponents must be equal. So that means n minus 3 is equal to 2. Here you would add 3 to both sides, and then we know that n is 5. And so my answer choice would be E. and you'll be done. But of course, we're going to look at what if we wanted to use Desmos. So again, that took me about 2.5 minutes. Okay, so let's look at Desmos and see how long that will take me. Alrighty, so let's see here. The question this time, 3 to the power n minus 3. Of course, we have to use our parentheses here. And it's always a good bet to practice these type of things at home so that you know how to plug them in when you're actually on the exam. All right, so this is what we have, and we want to figure out which value of n makes this equal to 18. So this is going to be a good example where I said you want to start with your answer choice C first. And so in this instance, C would have been 3. So let's say I plug in 3 for n, right? And my answer should be 18, right? Notice that if n is 3, my answer is 10. That's too small. So I would keep going up. Let's say when n is 4, it's 12. Okay. When n is 5, it's 18. Got my answer, moving on. So you've eliminated A and B by using that possibility. So whichever way you're on the exam, definitely utilize Desmos. Use your answers if you can and get your answers quickly so that you can move on to other questions that may take more time. Thank you for watching, and until next time, see ya. Do like, share, and subscribe. And I hear they have a hype button. So if you would like to hype this video up, do that. I did say do. But because on this channel, our aim is to help students get really high score on their SAT so that they can land scholarships for college and graduate debt-free. So until next time, see you.